Hello sim racers. Today we're going to be doing a 2021 review of Assetto Corsa. Originally released back in 2014, Assetto Corsa is still a relevant sim today due to its initial brilliance combined with subsequent official DLC releases, but more importantly under the work of the larger sim community in terms of mods and modding, most of which are free, with some being released under the pay model where separate cars can be purchased for a usually reasonable fee. Assetto Corsa allows you to start where you want, giving you the option to never touch specific parts of the sim without it affecting gameplay in any way. Love to drift but hate circuit racing? No problem. Use any of the hundreds of available vehicles on any of the chosen drift tracks, and away you go. You never have to leave. Like to hot lap, race and time trial, but aren't much good at drag racing? Fine, stay right in the lane that you're comfortable with and be confident that you could literally spend years there, and again, you never have to leave. Assetto Corsa is set up in a way that you can come and go as you please, engaging with the simulator purely on your terms. The only restrictions are in career mode, where you're locked into levels or grades through which you must progress to unlock the next. Career starts you off driving Fiat Abarths, gradually increasing vehicle classes and difficulty of tasks through sports cars, race cars, supercars, open wheelers, all the way up to the pinnacle that is F1 and beyond. The purpose of career mode being to ingratiate the user with the varying vehicles and their handling, along with the different tracks and difficulty of objective. Starting you off in a novice, where you progress through the ranks until you can pretty much master everything. This is literally the only type of hand holding or restriction done by Assetto Corsa. Everything else is fair game. Single player in Assetto Corsa gives you a wide variety of options, allowing you to create the exact experience you're looking for. The modes available are Practice, which lets you take any car and any track combination to test under your chosen conditions. Challenges, which includes hot laps, special events, time attack, drift options, and also to note with special events, they consist of a range of preset cars and tracks with varying difficulty which come with an achievement system, rewarding the driver for completing each task. Moving on from challenges, we have Race, which allows the player to use race against the AI using chosen vehicle and track combination, allowing you to just jump straight in. There's the option for a race weekend, from which you can set up practice, qualifying and race sessions. There's also the option for championship, for where you can set several races across the period of a season. And finally the drag race options, which allow you to race on varying lengths of drag strip. The single player content alone, particularly with the addition of mods, are more than sufficient to keep any sim racer busy for years. How could I forget to mention the AI? The AI in Assetto Corsa is definitely decent on the official circuits. It can be a little bit hit and miss on mod circuits. The AI can be set from a level from 80% up to 100%, allowing for varying difficulty in challenge. They seem to have different levels of aggression depending on where you set sliders to. So a very aggressive AI set at very hard difficulty may be an incredible challenge even for the toughest sim racers. Getting online with Assetto Corsa is a pretty straightforward task of selecting from a list of active servers hosting different event types with varying vehicular requirements. At the time of writing this review, Assetto Corsa is still showing a high online presence in terms of users and available race servers. Pings will vary depending on location and time zone, so be aware that off-peak racing may mean North Americans joining European servers with triple-digit pings. There are filtering options allowing you to entirely dismiss servers which do not suit your preferences, enabling you to just go for what you like. The event types are things like races, track days, hill climbs, drifting, and more. Hosting a server is a completely different affair, which I have never personally gotten to grips with, believing it to be a mastery locked behind a degree in programming, combined with an in-depth knowledge of dark magic. As a result, this Challenger Sim Racing server is hosted by a third party, which I find much easier to use, combined with Content Manager. The vanilla version of Assetto Corsa looked much different upon release than it does today, but with the additions of mods such as Sol and Content Shaders patch working in tandem to produce what some would describe as photorealistic graphics. Car models in Assetto Corsa are decent, faithful representations of their real-life counterparts, with view settings giving you multiple angles from which to pilot your chosen digital vehicle. The exterior of car models show a lot of detail and, as far as I can tell, are pretty accurate, Vehicle interiors also show evidence of the same care and attention paid to the exterior, with dashboards, instrument panels, steering wheel, and gear sticks or shifters all being specific to each car. Here you will see digital and analog gauges, suede or carbon fiber dashboards, steering wheel wrapping, all recreated in great detail. Even back in 2017, Assetto Corsa's graphical engine was and is possibly still being used by Ferrari in their official in-house simulators, as shown here in the intro video. I'd like to make a separate note for VR to state that Assetto Corsa does have VR support through OpenVR, and this is actually easier done through Content Manager, where there are specific options that allow for you to be able to choose the VR option as your rendering option. VR, I guess, would vary from unit to unit. I'm using an Oculus Rift S. The performance is fairly decent, paired along with my 3700X Ryzen processor and the Vega 56 8MB graphics card. Your mileage may vary. When it comes to sound in Assetto Corsa, for the most part, vehicles match the sounds which are applied to them, as far as I understand. Definitely with the official vehicles from the simulator, all of those sounds are real. When it comes to mods, it's going to be a bit of a mix and match. Some of the sounds come from other places, but that's to be expected because that's done by the community. Essentially, it's functional enough and does what it has to do. Assetto Corsa provides the ability to drive using keyboard, controller or wheel with a range of preset options for the most popular wheels, and is the preferred controller option if available. Although Assetto Corsa can be played on controller, which is how I myself started, it is definitely tricky and I wouldn't recommend it unless you have no other option. For wheel users, the driving feel and force feedback in Assetto Corsa is generally of a decent quality and makes a decent representation of a car meeting the track, allowing the driver to feel lots of detail through the wheel, making for a fulfilling experience. The force feedback here is not quite on par with R Factor 2 or the subsequent release to AC itself in Assetto Corsa Competizione. My biggest negative about Assetto Corsa is actually a very simple problem that has haunted me over 2 PC builds, 3 processors and 3 GPUs. This problem is more annoying than all of Assetto Corsa's shortcomings, of which there are a few, and with over 600 hours of gameplay I have not been able to rid myself of this curse. Micro stutters. Micro stutters have seen me crash, get angry, and followed up by not using Assetto Corsa sometimes for months at a time, not wanting a repeat of the stutter in Eau Rouge, causing the ruination of almost an entire grid of drivers. Not fun in single player, even worse online. There are many videos on the internet claiming to show how to fix this issue, but none have worked for me based on the methods shown. Whilst Assetto Corsa is far more user-friendly than its counterparts of the time, there are definitely some huge shortcomings when looking at the user interface. For starters, if you are using a wheel or controller, it's impossible to pause the simulator without the use of a keyboard, which must always be within reach if not attached directly to a rig. Since the PC release, Assetto Corsa has come out on consoles, which means Kunos has had no choice but to work around this issue to make the game work on the consoles. But as of yet, they've not added that functionality for PC users, which is both unfortunate and a continued nuisance. Kunos have rectified this issue in their subsequent release to this title in Assetto Corsa Competizione, where you can access everything from your designated control option of choice. The rules and penalty systems applied in Assetto Corsa are bare bones and pretty much the same across all modes, which brings a fairly unique set of problems. Just take F1 for example. Whilst there are both official and mod cars and tracks on Assetto Corsa, there are no specific rules to go with that. Any car that has DRS can use it immediately from the start of the race without restriction or penalty. Only with the work of modders can Assetto Corsa users even apply the correct DRS zones to a track, providing some restriction and realism with the use of DRS. Notwithstanding that, until today, there is no way to prevent DRS being used by drivers outside of the 1 second detection point required in F1. There is no way to prevent DRS being used until the 3rd lap of the race, and no way to turn it off in yellow flag zones or under a safety car. Which is another thing missing from AC. There's no safety car for any event that is triggered by the AI. This, I imagine, is partially due to the limited and simplified rule set applied across the board in this sim. Despite its age, even today in 2021, it is clear to see the passion that went into creating this simulator and the beautiful results it has produced, honed closer to perfection by the wider modding community who have literally thrown several thousands of days and hours collectively at Assetto Corsa, making it the giant that it is in the sim world presently. Much like my favorite brand Ferrari, Kunos have not created a perfect simulator with every available creature feature and comfort and option, and their final product more resembles the image of a sleek sports car as opposed to that of a family station wagon. Assetto Corsa gives you a decent and faithful taste of a wide range of vehicles and motorsport types and the selection of tracks to create the experience you want. The AI options for single player still keep me busy until today, and multiplayer extends the options for variety and infinite replayability. All of this is presented in a nice neat package, often seen for download at under $10 Canadian. With a gargantuan selection of mods, cars and tracks, and apps, this is a must-have for any sim racing fan. Myself having over 200 gigabytes of SSD storage space taken up in mods, mostly cars and tracks. With such a large modding community and wealth of resources, Assetto Corsa is a unique sim in that you can tailor whole seasons of racing to match the real-life counterparts. For example, adjusting the 2020 F1 calendar to match the real-life adjusted version. There is no way to race at Istanbul in F1 2020 by Codemasters, as the tracks are locked and cannot be modded, whereas Assetto Corsa could recreate that race for you and also give you the shortened Bahrain circuit used in the 2020 season as a sweetener. This is where Assetto Corsa shines despite its shortcomings. It gives you the ability to drive any car, anywhere, anytime, as long as the mod exists. I have yet to find a simulator to provide me with such an expansive experience as the one provided by Assetto Corsa, and whilst this sim has its issues, Assetto Corsa fills a gap left by other sims and should definitely be a part of any sim racer's library.